Mississippi Farm Bureau. Luke Johnson joins us right now, covers the New Orleans Saints for The Advocate. Luke, always appreciate a few minutes of your time. We've talked a lot about the player angle for the NFL draft. You know, what have players done in the combine? How have pro day workouts gone? All of those things. I'm curious about the flip side, the what the Saints are looking at as we get closer and closer to the draft. And in particular, at the quarterback position, and I guess of local interest, Matt Corral. What can you tell us about potentially the Saints' interest in former Ole Miss quarterback Matt Corral?
Well, I think he's one of the guys you have to consider, right? When you're looking at this, I think there's probably five guys that kind of come into mind when you're looking at the Saints potentially selecting a quarterback. I think the guys that everybody kind of the guys that people are zeroing in on right now are Pittsburgh's Kenny Pickett and Liberty's Malik Willis. So those are kind of the two top guys, and you see him get those two mid-round picks now, and you're like, okay, well they could, if they find a willing trade partner, they could potentially package those and move up in the draft and make sure they get their choice of one of those two top guys. But that's, this is all with the understanding that we're basing this off of, what we know about these guys and what everybody's saying about these guys. And the Saints could be sitting in their war room right now and saying, we really like Matt Corral. We think he's got the goods, and we think he's going to be there at 16. That could absolutely be their process right now. And I think Corral would fit in really nicely with what they do offensively. I know there's still a little bit of nobody really exactly knows what the Saints offense is going to look like without Sean Payton next year, but you've still got Pete Carmichael calling the plays. I think they're going to be, they're going to look very similar to what, we've come to understand the Saints team is. And I think Corral's traits fit pretty nicely within that. So, I think I'm literally writing something right now, and I just got done writing Matt Corral's name. I think he's somebody that we can't be, losing sight of when we're talking about the Saints and potential quarterbacks that they could take in this draft.
I am curious if you've talked to anybody with or around the Saints or just in NFL circles specifically about Matt Corral, because throughout a lot of the season, and maybe we do this too loosely when we go, probably a future first round pick. I mean, people love to throw that out, and there just aren't that many of them. But it feels like since the season ended, Matt Corral's stock has fallen a bit, and Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis's stock has risen. Is there anything specifically in the offseason that you can point to that has caused that to happen?
No, I don't think so. I think this just kind of happens from time to time, and people talk more and more about, Pickett and Willis. Is just, they're kind of, the consensus kind of lands on those guys, right? And then you end up getting the draft day, and there's still going to be 4 or 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round. That's just kind of the way it works out, and guys who maybe aren't getting as much hype in the lead up to the draft still end up going to favorable situations or getting drafted higher than people say they should be, or whatever the case may be. I kind of agree with you. I think a lot of the chatter has really died down around Corral, but I don't think that in any way is result in him falling to like the 3rd round or something like that. I still think that he's pretty clearly one of the top quarterbacks in the draft. He does a lot of really nice things physically. I think his game is really suited to where the NFL is going right now. Just with being able to kind of sling the ball down the field, with being able to move with his legs. I would be really surprised if he has this dramatic tumble. It's just kind of coincided with people not talking about him as much.
Visiting with Luke Johnson from the Advocate, covers the Saints. So I guess we're a week or so removed from the big trade with the Eagles. The Saints give up number 18 overall, 3rd round pick, 7th round pick, and a 2023 first rounder, 2024 second rounder. And they get number 16, number 19, and number 194 this year in return. What's the end game here?
It's really hard to figure out, man. It's just trying to read the tea leaves, and I feel like there's so many different directions this can go, right? at first glance, it kind of struck me like, okay, this totally fits their MO. They've been a team that for years has been in win now mode.
Yeah.
And whether you're talking about the draft or you're talking about their approach to the salary cap, it's like whatever. Let's borrow against the future to satisfy right now. It's just what they've been doing, right? And I think you look at 16 and 19, and you're like, okay, they've got a couple needs on this roster, like pretty glaring, obvious needs. And those 2 picks in the middle round kind of align nicely with those needs. There should be a lot of receivers available then. There should be a couple offensive tackles available then. And there might be, one of these top quarterbacks or whoever they really like might end up sliding and being there.
Okay.
You're like, okay, well, that tracks. That fits with everything we've known about this team. And at the same time, you're starting to look. You pull up the trade charts, right? You're like, okay, well, what can the 16 and 19 pick? Like, where can that get you in the draft? And it lands them right squarely in the top 5, right ahead of Carolina, who's kind of everybody's considering to be the first team to pick a quarterback in this draft, the first team that needs a quarterback in this draft. And they're like, okay, well, maybe this is just a signal that they're trying to move up into the top 5 and go to get the guy they really want. Which does not align with the win now mentality, right? Because you've already got Jameis here, and he's going to be your starter next year. You're saying, well, we're going to win now, but we're also going to build for the future at the same time, while also trading away future draft picks to get there. There's a lot of different ways to go with this, but I think only one of them really makes a ton of sense unless they are absolutely sold on one of these quarterbacks. And they're like, we need to have this guy because we think he's going to be a dude for the next 10 years for a franchise. That's the only way that makes sense. And I really can't see them, packaging these picks and moving up to the top 5 for like Kyle Hamilton, right? The Notre Dame safety.
Yeah.
Like it's the only way they make one of these trades is to go up and get a quarterback. And that just doesn't, it doesn't really jive with the rest of their moves and kind of their recent history.
Was the new contract with Jameis, was this good for both sides?
Yeah, I think so. But I think that you need to kind of reevaluate that conversation. At the end of April, if the Saints take a quarterback.
Okay.
I think. Look, I think Jameis did enough last year to prove he deserves another shot to be a starting quarterback, right? He didn't. They kind of had him play with a governor last year, right? But the numbers he put up were solid. They won a lot of football games while he was in there, and you never really knew what this offense could totally be if they really fully unleashed him. And I think they kind of had to do that out of necessity, just considering their kind of lack of playmaking talent on the outside and where their strengths of their team were. So I think it made sense for the Saints, who do believe they have a roster that's capable of competing for a division title or a playoff spot. It made sense for them to get a capable veteran quarterback who understands the roster, understands the system, knows everybody in the building. And they got him at a pretty discounted price. Yeah, I think he's like middle of the pack, like 14th or 15th in the NFL for starting quarterback money. And all the guys below him are guys on rookie contracts, or Marcus Mariota. So I mean that made sense, right? And it made total sense. And even if they draft a rookie quarterback, it still kind of makes sense, because you're guaranteed to have a guy who you can trust out there. But at the same time, I don't know if I can really say this makes a ton of sense for Jameis if they go out and draft a quarterback and they're essentially looking at him like, okay, you are a bridge. You're a guy that's going to get us until the point when the guy we're drafting is ready to play, and we're going to let you walk and go somewhere else. So if there were other options for Jameis out there, there's reports that the Colts had interest. Maybe it would have made more sense for him to go there and potentially be their guy in the future. It's hard to really say that without knowing what offers were available to him out there. If anybody was willing to go more than 2 years, I think he could play himself into a nice contract. I guess it would be his 4th or 5th contract after all these 1-year deals he signed in New Orleans. But there is a possibility that he could be kind of in a lame duck spot, which would be a little awkward for everybody involved, I think.
Yeah, no question about it.